What's good, fam? It's Mr. Kelly with Good to the Hood, talking about anything and everything that impacts the culture. And today we're just going to do a quick update on COVID-19 and how it relates to where we are now. And more specifically, we'll get into how it affects the sports world. So, hey, man, I did quite a few COVID videos early on, March, April. I think I did, a couple in May. I thought we'd be out of the weeds by now. I thought, at that point, in May, I thought we'd at least have it under control. I didn't think we'd be out of the weeds, but I thought we'd have it more under control than we do, right? So here we are now, September. So we've been dealing with this now for 7-8 months. Obviously, 2020 is cashed, right? I mean, as far as this whole ordeal is going to go definitely for the rest of the year. Because cold and flu season is right around the corner, right? So it's September now. Figure, even with no COVID, October, November for sure, December, it's cold and flu season, right? That's when, people are getting sick, and, people start missing work, school. I mean, that's just normal. They say, hey, if you're sick, stay at home, that kind of thing, right? So that was already before COVID. Now we have COVID, and this is our first time we're going to really full on have to deal with it during cold and flu season. And so, to me, this is the true second wave. I did a video before, last time I did a COVID video, however many months ago that was. I didn't think that it was a second wave then to begin with, right? I remember saying that I was like, what are you talking about? There's not a second wave of resurgence. Like, we never got out of the first wave because we didn't deal with it the way that we should have, or at least, the best way that we, that was possible or whatever. So the real second wave of coronavirus is definitely going to be on and popping Halloween all the way through to Thanksgiving, Christmas, all that, right? So, kids went back to school, right? Which is crazy because it's like that's going to be, that's just a petri dish. You know what I'm saying? Everybody knows that there has, especially young kids. You got little kids, elementary and below, wherever they're going, that's just a petri dish because kids is touching and licking everything and picking their noses and touching everybody, and half of them probably ain't even getting a thorough bath and all this. I mean, this gets crazy, right? So that's before COVID. Now, I mean, it's going to be nuts. So even here locally in Colorado, I saw something where one of the high schools, I won't say, I know which high school, but I'm not going to say specifically because I don't want to put nobody on blast, but a specific high school, a prominent high school out here, they started school and within a week or two, they already have 140 some odd confirmed cases out of a student body of about 2,500, 140 confirmed cases. So them kids is sent home for 14 days quarantined, right? But now you have to track who all have they come in contact with, and all that. And so, it's just, and that's one high school, and we're not even a month in, really. You know what I'm saying? We're not even a month into school, and this is already popping off. And that's just here local, my local state. So obviously I know it's going on in your state and your city and so on and so forth and whatever. And that's just at the high school level. So middle school, it's going to be nuts. College, it's just going to be crazy. So we're just not even completely out of the weeds yet with this whole deal. And there's a lot of online. My thing with the online thing, which isn't a bad idea. I mean, anybody that went to college probably took some online classes, right? Or hybrid classes where part of it's online, part of it's not. I think that makes a little bit more sense. But at this high school level, or not even just high school, like work period, because a lot of people started working from home. And businesses realize, hey, you know what, we can just have these people just remote in and work. And that's proven to be pretty effective. So my whole thing is people have been remoting and doing things from home, or working from home now for so long, for more than half the year or half of a year, that who's going to want to go back to work? You know what I mean? So this is really change. This is really going to change everything, right? And again, the second wave is not even here yet. So I'm just curious to know how that's going to, it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. Customer service is a wrap. Man, I had some issues where I wanted to talk to a person. I'm very much this type of person anyway. I want to talk to a human being. Man, if you thought companies weren't answering the phones and whatnot now, they want you to email, they want to do the little digital chat thing that pops up on your PC. Man, it's crazy. I mean, there's a couple companies that were like that beforehand, but now with COVID, it's just nuts. One big one that comes to mind, and I don't mind dropping them because they're a pain in the butt to me, is Dropbox. Dropbox is horrible. I refuse to use it. It's terrible. Customer service, forget about it. It's non-existent. It's not even in their business model. But I mean, so it's really going to be crazy, right? Relationships with young people now, it was already this way anyway because of social media, but man, y'all can't even have a conversation like the use of Twitter, Facebook, IG, and all the rest through the roof, man. And that's not, I mean, so how's that going to impact us as a society later on down the road remains to be seen, but I already see the decline in it a little bit. So, I mean, that's just the update on that. So how's this affected the sports world, right? So baseball's still been playing. I don't really follow baseball. Some of my friends do, but baseball's been playing for a while. And from what I understand, when it gets to the point of, I guess, World Series, when it gets to that point, it's going to be like in a bubble environment, which is what the NBA has been doing, right? They have their own bubble there in Florida at Disney World. I think it's Disney World that's in Florida, Disneyland's in California. But anyway, so the NBA, there were some hiccups there because, you know, these guys feel like, oh, I'm like imprisoned in this camp. I mean, it's Disney World. I mean, y'all still have chefs and y'all still have each other, and I think significant others are allowed to be there with them as far as wives and that kind of thing. But it's a controlled environment for sure. You know, Disney World there. Which with basketball, you can do that because, you know, a whole team, not including coaches and all that other kind of stuff, you know, a whole team consists of like, you know what, 12 people, a dozen people or so. Right, you got your first string, second string, or whatever your starters, and then those on the bench. I mean, you have like 12 people, something like that, right? Relatively low number. So they're able to do that, that whole bubble deal. The NFL football season started. Right on. I'm happy for that. Week one just passed, and so now we're entering into week 2. And so Roger Goodell, and he said he was going to do this, and I was like, this guy is nuts. But he said he was going to do this. So. At least in various stadiums, and I do know like where the Broncos, you know, because that's the local market where I'm at. Here in Colorado, the Broncos at the stadium, they're going to, starting in week 2, they're going to start selling tickets in various sections of the stadium. And they're going to cap it off, at least in Colorado, last I saw on the news, they're going to cap it off at 5,700 tickets to be sold. So 5,700 people in the whole stadium, and they're going to space them out. I don't know how they're going to space them out because, sure, if me and my wife go to a game, okay, so we're going to have our seats. So is that to say that you're not going to sell seats next to us for a couple seats, in front of us, behind us, diagonally, cat corner? Like, how is that going to work? So, which, look, they could do, because a stadium, you know, depending on where you're at, stadium holds anywhere from 55,000 to 90,000, right? Just depending on which stadium you're at. Like if you're at a smaller stadium, like Arrowhead, it's going to hold considerably less. Obviously, if you're in a bigger stadium, like where the Cowboys play, AT&T, or the New Vegas Stadium there for the Raiders, it's going to be on the, you know, it's going to be considerably more. But these people are just going to be scattered all over the place. They're still going to go and get beer and pretzels and still go to the bathroom. I mean, 6,000 people is still 6,000 people in a relatively small area. So it'll be interesting to see how that works. But, okay, so that's going to happen. And, of course, what they did for week 1, and I'm sure they're going to still do this, and they've been doing this, or the equivalent with baseball and NBA, is those cutouts. So, like, what they did here is people would send in their pictures, and those pictures had to be approved by the franchise. And then the South Stands, which is like the big area for the hardcore fans out here, they put them there in the South Stands. And on the news, they said they had like 2,000 cutouts of all these Bronco fans and whatnot. And it was free, I guess. They just submitted their pictures. And my understanding is some organizations are going to charge, which is kind of dumb to me. I mean, not dumb on their part because, hey, if you can make a buck, make a buck. But I feel like as a fan, why would you spend that money? Why would you spend $100 or whatever to have your cutout in the stands? So whatever. I think the NBA, they don't have cutouts. I think it's an actual like kind of a digital screen type of deal, but it's the same basic concept, right? There was one where Lil Wayne, I guess, was his cutout or his screen or whatever was him firing up, a blunt or something. I don't know, but something crazy. But it was on the, it's whatever, on the news. But that just seems weird to me, right? I don't think that's the safest thing to do. But look, and especially, okay, so like I was saying, like basketball squads considerably smaller. A typical football roster, a team, supposed to have 53 players, right? After you cut everybody out and whatever, preseason, 53 players. Of course, there wasn't preseason this year. They just jumped right into it. So each squad has something like 80 people, because it's going to be a situation where some of those might get, obviously might get sick, with COVID or whatever, plus your regular injuries that occur and all that. And so you got to put people in quarantine, and then they come back out and whatever. But the crazy thing is, the NFL's not in a bubble. So the NFL is like, these people are still flying from stadium to stadium. Like, they're still home and away games. It's not as controlled, right? So that really seems like that seems nuts, right? So we'll see how the season goes with football. Look, it's even affected to the fantasy football level. For those of you that play fantasy, I do play fantasy. I'm in 2 leagues. And so there's an IR list, injured reserve. So now if your player is injured reserve because of COVID and not actually because of an ankle injury or whatever, in fantasy football, they're now allowing, at least it's Yahoo and I'm sure all the other sites, they're allowing more slots for injured reserve. So you're like, man, I got 10 players with COVID. You could put all of them in that IR spot and hold them off to the side and then just start picking other players off the wire. So it's crazy, right? Those of you that don't play any type of fantasy sports, that probably is just like stupid, didn't make no kind of sense. But that's kind of a big deal, right? For those of us that do play fantasy football. And yes, I am watching football. You guys see my other videos, obviously, very socially conscious and have big opinions on that and have guests. I had Nate Boyer, had some other guests, come on and talk about these real serious issues. But I'm still watching football, still support the cause, still active in my community, and I have posted all that too. So before y'all start to hate on a brother, do a little research, right? But look, that is just where we're at right now for the update of COVID. So it's impacted sports that way. It's impacted our personal lives as far as with the schooling. It's not even cold and flu season yet. So let's just see what happens. You know what I mean? They say they're closer to a vaccine, which, look, I ain't taking the vaccine. Let me just go on the record for that. Not no time soon. I ain't going to be the first wave to be taking it. I'll let everybody else be the guinea pigs, and I appreciate y'all's service for those of you that are taking it. I ain't going to take it. Not going out the gate. But anyway, that is what it is. Now I'm getting off topic. But look, if you have any opinions on this and what you think this is going to happen as we get deeper and deeper in the season, let me know. But until next time, do me a favor, if you would, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like, tell a friend, share the video, look at some of our playlists. But until next time, this is Mr. Kelly with Good to the Hood. Peace.